Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. My name is Philip Atiba Goff, P-H-I-L-L-I-P, A-T-I-B as in boy, A, G-O-F-F. I am president of the Center for Policing Equity and the Franklin A. Thomas Professor in Policing Equity at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. It is my tremendous honor, and I'm humbled by the opportunity to work together with the Austin Police Department and the White House Police Data Initiative to issue this report today. A little more than 2 years ago, this country plunged into our recurring, heart-rending conversation about the state of race relations in the United States. We're plunged there by the shooting of an African-American man named Michael Brown Jr. in Ferguson. We now understand ourselves to be in a post-Ferguson era. What was put on the table was not police corruption, was not negative individuals within police departments. It was the very nature of the relationship between law enforcement and our most vulnerable communities. And it was the capacity for citizens to trust the government, particularly the areas of the government empowered to take away life and liberty. Since that time, journalists, community members, and frankly members of law enforcement have found out an embarrassing truth about the nation, which is that as much as we want to understand these individual incidents within a broader context, we simply don't measure the information we need to answer basic, fundamental questions about how the dignity of American citizens is handled when it comes in contact with law enforcement. As a professional nerd, we started looking at this in 2012 in great depth. At one of our Science of Justice convenings at the Department of Justice, together and led by then Chief of Salt Lake City, Christopher Burbank, who stands with me here today as the Director of Law Enforcement Engagement for the Center for Policing Equity. Christopher Burbank, B-U-R-B-A-N-K. You'll note the purple. We said that we needed a national justice database, a database of police behavior that would cover the nation because we just didn't know. And not only is it impossible to manage things that you don't measure, you measure what matters. And if this country says that diversity and inclusion and equality matter, we need to be measuring more about how communities engage with their law enforcement. In the past 4 years since that convening, many people have joined this space and we welcome them. This cannot be a solo effort. And in May of 2015, the White House launched the Police Data Initiative to do something slightly different than the National Justice Database. What we do at the Justice Database is we invite police departments to come in and we protect the confidentiality of individual departments for the rigorousness of the research that we can do with their data that we standardize for the sake of analysis. The White House initiative is different, but allied. Their goal is to create a community of practice to share and to democratize police data. They make it public. They encourage folks to make it public, and they find ways that people can feel comfortable making it public. So today, we stand here because we have the first collaborative project between the National Justice Database and the White House Police Data Initiative. Austin was a first mover there. Chief Acevedo said as soon as it launched that Austin Police Department wanted to be involved. And when the White House and NJD got together, we said, what would be the best department with the most elaborated data set on police use of force in the country? And there was consensus between Center for Policing Equity, the White House Police Data Initiative, and the Urban Institute, our trusted partners, CPE's trusted partners in this project, that Austin had the best publicly available data set. That didn't mean they were being forced into it. We arranged a phone call and asked whether or not Austin would be interested in participating because our research model requires consent. So we asked, and it was a 5-second conversation. Chief, would you like to be involved in? Yes. I don't believe that you let me finish the sentence, which is not uncommon in my conversations with them. To say we want to be involved and named before you know the results of this. So what the project was to take data as found in the Police Data Initiative portal. So not all the data that's made public, just the data found in the Police Data Initiative portal. Right? And Austin is dual members in the National Justice Database and the Police Data Initiative. Okay? So it's not just even the data that we would normally take. This is collaboration, so we focused on PDI available data. For this report, that included vehicle stops resulting in citation and arrest, as well as use of force data. most importantly, since those 2 years ago when we were plunged into this space, and we've been reeling ever since, we now have the opportunity to answer the question, why do we see the disparities? So first, let me affirm, there are disparities in almost every integrated setting in the United States. Policing outcome disparities. But why? We've seen conversations that blame 100% of that on law enforcement behavior and policy. You've heard people say 100% that is because of crime or the behavior of people in the community. But let me lay it out for you like a scientist. There are 3 possible explanations that deserve attention. The first are community-level explanations of the disparities. Let me be clear, community-level explanations do not only include things the community does, but also things that happen to the community. So if we see racial disparities in policing outcomes, of course we see racial disparities in education, employment, housing, healthcare, all of which happens upstream. That would be a community-level response. But it's also commissions of crime, poverty, education levels, all of which we are able to analyze in this report. The second explanation, police-level explanations. That's policies, the differential ways in which a department might police different regions or districts depending on the department, as well as aggregate level and individual level bias on the part of officers and command staff. That's the second explanation. The third is relational, the relationship between police and the public. What we know as a matter of science and not just religious principle is that compliance with the law must begin with trust in it and not fear of it. When one believes that law enforcement is legitimate, you cooperate. When you don't, you run in fear. Those are 3 possible explanations. PDI data through the portal will allow us to answer only one of those, but it's part of an opportunity to be able to answer all 3 in the National Justice Database Analytic Framework. We're very excited about because that provides a roadmap. If you want to know the answer to the question, you can ask, and it can be answered. For this report, we were able to look at community-level explanations and community-level explanations